Hi and welcome to my channel. This is a short review about a very special book. It's called Closer to God from a British guy, Aaron Berry. It's quite thick, as you can see, 670 pages, quite heavy. It took me about 4 days to read it. And I'd like to tell you something about the content of this book. I'd like to recommend it for anyone who is interested in spirituality or any kind of topic related to the most important, deepest questions in life. So, what is the sense of life, or what is this all about, and who are we? Basically, you will read a personal as well as a spiritual biography. Aaron Berry is 60 years old. He had a quite intense worldly life until 46. He traveled around the world, visited or lived and worked in almost 50 countries. He was earning lots of money, enjoyed comfort, sexual pleasure, as well as intoxicating drugs. His life was about being a successful businessman, fulfilling his wishes and desires, and to do whatever he wanted to do. All of this took a turn with an accident. He was shot in his house in Africa by a stranger. Severely injured, he was very close to death, and it took him some time to recover. This experience shook him to the core. It was a turning point, the start of a new era, a horrible life crisis, what he calls the dark night of the soul, that would last about 7 years. He started to overthink his life, his goals, the sense of it all. He took himself back and dived into deep, meaningful topics like psychology or philosophy, religion, and spiritual practices. He started to walk the path to his own self, to explore the truth. He started to meditate, to focus his mind with meditation on a regular basis, and did psychedelic drugs hundreds of times, especially different types of mushrooms and DMT. Coming with that, he made lots of experiences that led him into a living, authentic spirituality and deep insights into the nature of life and us human beings. This is what Aaron Berry is sharing with us here in this book. The most intriguing experiences might be those related to Jesus, the God of the Bible, Yahweh, Jehovah, and a challenging combat with a mighty evil power in a small, dirty prison cell in Arizona. This dreadful fight lasted about 2 months and forced him to bring up all his sincerity and willpower. He stood against the attacks and suppression bravely and overcame this strong entity successfully, using mantras, affirmations, prayer, and other spiritual techniques. He did not just survive, but grow and evolve to a better version of himself. Some kind of a baptism of fire that made him a true warrior and a new man. When the process had started, he was a worldly person without any kind of spiritual attitudes and a lack of interest in such like topics. The book introduces the reader in many of these topics he had discovered on his journey. They are quite essential and meaningful, and I would consider them to be part of an advanced general education level. Obviously, he spent like thousands of hours reading books about psychology, occultism, esoterics, religion, or philosophy like metaphysics and ontology, not to forget regular science and technology, especially quantum physics and artificial intelligence. More examples the reader learns about would be the dark night of the soul, or the allegory of the cave by the well-known Greek philosopher Plato. The theories of Sigmund Freud and Carl Gustav Jung, pioneers of modern psychology, about the subconsciousness and the concept of three components of the human psyche called id, ego, and superego. The Bible is also quoted and discussed, especially related to spiritual teachings and concepts that might be overseen, misunderstood, or denied by many Christians. To name a few more topics, the Mandela effect, the simulation theory, and how the brain works. The left side in comparison to the right side, for example. A huge topic is the so-called egregore, something like artificial entities or energy fields with some kind of artificial personality, character, intention, acting independently according to the intentions of those who created this energy field, fed with emotions, prayers, belief, or imaginations of the people attached to it. Aaron Berry considers the entities that appear to him as Jesus and Yahweh to be such egregores. Aaron Berry's mind tries to connect all these disciplines, considering his experiences, to draw a big picture and get closer to a final conclusion. He was searching for answers, for the truth, and by this book you are able to explore his findings. That is at least 14 years of an intense lifetime in a condensed form. The range of topics covered is broad and challenging, especially when you are new in this field. It will need some time to get into it and understand. You might need to make notes to remember and contemplate or do research. You will also find critical opinions and statements about religion, especially the Bible, Christianity, or Yahweh. The author is not a religious person, not at all. He has his arguments, though. I personally think that these arguments are worth considering and reasonable. Though our opinions differ here and there, what he says makes sense. To me, it's interesting and inspiring. Concerning the deeper spiritual meaning or layer in Christianity, I am completely on his side, naturally. Even if I don't assume that the Bible is only meant metaphorically, anyway, it's rewarding to see things from a different perspective. The core topics of this book probably are what is real or reality and what is true or truth. His answer: there is no reality. Reality is just a concept. He states that just God is real and God is consciousness, nothing but pure cosmic consciousness. He considers himself to be cosmic consciousness as he considers all of us to be cosmic consciousness. With this attitude in mind, he calls himself, but not just himself, also all of us, God. He is convinced that you are God, I am God, he is God, we all are God, and we are all one. There is just a single consciousness, which is the cosmic consciousness or the cosmic mind, that is separating itself from itself to experience itself, just like a game or a dream. We are rediscovering our own true self, like everything, the cosmos, pure consciousness. The book has about 250,000 words. Although you will find so much information and so many answers, still you will also find plenty of questions. To be precise, there are 755 questions in this book, more than one question on a page in average, while he offers answers to at least some of these questions. I find them inspiring and challenging. It's a good book for beginners that may have some kind of experiences and questions, as long as they are serious. If that applies to you, you will have a reasonable gain from this book. Since I am involved in spirituality for about 35 years, since I was a young teenager, the content is mostly familiar to me with a few exceptions. For me personally, it's really a valuable book, and what I like most is that it's authentic, it's real. This guy is talking about real, authentic spiritual experiences, which is rare and hard to find. You will find true, genuine, authentic reports about spiritual experiences on social media. For example, when you search for near-death or DMT-induced experiences. There is a lot to find online, but it's not that a single person offers so many experiences. Normally, a person has maybe just a single near-death experience in his or her whole life, maybe 2 or 3, which is quite rare. Such reports are still a rarity. But this is the way to find out something about these layers of reality that are hidden to most of us. Normally, we cannot perceive these spiritual subtle layers. Mostly people need help, something like a very strong psychedelic, intoxicating drug, or a near-death experience. It's possible to develop higher senses and find such experiences by daily serious practice, but most people, well, they just don't do it because it's demanding. You need time, make efforts for years, decades, and you might also have to make sacrifices to live a pure, virtuous life. Intoxicating drugs and very stressful, outstanding, painful experiences might also lead to such outstanding, special, life-changing experiences. But this is dangerous. This guy had quite a lot of them, and he's sharing them with us. From my point of view, just that is worth buying this book. It's worth it. You will need some time. It's not always easy to read. You might need to make an effort to make notes and overthink, but in the end, if you have read all of it and understood what he is talking about, then this will be some kind of level up and might probably give you motivation to start walking on your own path. There is just one thing I'd like to mention in this very short review. Aaron Berry is a very open-minded person. He's very strong, with a strong character, personality, and he's really healthy. And what he did worked for him. It's his personal biography. For him, this was the right way to go, the right path, but for others, this might not be the right way to go. There are people that get into very serious trouble using such psychedelic drugs. You might get crazy, insane. You might get a very serious mental disorder using such drugs, like DMT or mushrooms. They have a very severe effect that is absolutely mind-blowing. So I personally took LSD in my youth, and that was really adventurous and breathtaking. I am also strong. I could do it, but a few friends of mine got mad and they got mental disorders. It's really horrible. They are mentally handicapped to this day because of using intoxicating drugs. If you have the right mental setup, then the use of such a drug might be safe and you might find some kind of enlightenment. You might see and experience things from the spiritual world that are real, absolutely real, not hallucinations or imaginations. This is possible. I am absolutely convinced that this is actually happening, especially with DMT, but it might be very risky. I would never ever recommend anyone to do these drugs. Never ever. The only information that you will find in my books about such drugs is that you should not take them because they are dangerous. That does not mean they are necessarily dangerous for everyone. For some people, they might even be a medicine and heal mental disorders, but I am not willing to take responsibility for using these drugs. I am for just being sober. Stay sober. I am not against medicine that can help to gain strength. This is fine from my point of view in most cases, of course, carefully, reasonably, but I will always recommend anyone not to use intoxicating drugs at all. So what he did was very fine for him, might be fine for you too, but it might be the opposite. It might damage you. Everyone has to make such a decision for himself. The question is, how is it possible to find out if consuming these drugs is fine for a person? What are the criteria? I have my own theory about this, but I don't want to talk about this topic here. I will create a second video where I will go deeper into Aaron Berry's questions and the answers that I found that I can provide. I will talk about this in the second video. If you are interested in this to get into another perspective, which is my personal perspective, which is a different perspective than his perspective, then you might be interested to watch the second video. I do not condemn intoxicating drugs. I consumed such drugs quite often in my youth, and when I did that, it was fine, but at a certain point, it was not fine anymore. I consumed such drugs after this point, and that was really not healthy at all. And I know people that got into very, very severe, serious trouble, especially people on the spiritual path. If you have your experiences, or if you are just interested in spirituality, psychology, philosophy, and you want to learn, this is the right book for you, especially as a beginner. But even if you are progressed, this is still quite interesting and valuable. I can just recommend this book. It's really a good book, a great book, and it's worth every penny or cent. It's a really very good, valuable book. So I hope that you found this review to be interesting, and if you want to know more about it, then just watch the second video or visit the author Aaron Berry on his YouTube channel. Thank you.